righteousness. Happiness comes to those who live with the consciousness of righteousness. And with that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, this is Meher Amalsad and welcome to Bahumata, a program designed to build oneness with the consciousness of righteousness in humanity. The goal is not to grow the plant but to plant the seed for each one of us to blossom with our own love, light, grace, joy and peace. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this very special journey to enlightenment. And as you do, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to our very own Zartushti neuroscientist from United Kingdom, Dr. Karishma Koka.
Welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining this extremely special session of Bahumata, where we share the messages of Asho Zarathustra Sahib's teachings and the practice of the Zarathushti Daina, so that together we can understand and share these with others. The concept of Bahumata is with good thoughts, from the triad Humata, Hukta, Varshta. We intend to share good thoughts, peace, love, and joy with everyone. Our speakers will share with you their perspectives, understanding, and guidance for good action, again based on the triad good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, and quotations from the texts of Asho Zarathustra Sahib and the Zarathushti Daina. We intend, therefore, to conserve and share the principles, the knowledge, and the practice of the Zarathushti Daina, to honor our priests and knowledgeable elders, and to build a bridge of communication between the elders and the youth. Therefore, we can build world fellowship, peace, happiness, and prosperity for all. I will now introduce you to the theme for the day, which states, and we thank Baba Meher for this, our observation is a reflection of our perception and our interoception. You will find this theme reflected in several places in the Gathas. Indeed, it's probably an underlying theme of many of our prayers. But the three verses that I've chosen today are Yasna 30.2, 43.5, and 43 verse 15. And our four speakers will choose their own references to add to this. Ervat Sahib Darais Bajan, Ervat Sahib Freyampi Madalal, Shiva Ashtari, and Dilnaz Bilimoria, representing four different parts of the world. Let us now welcome Ervat Sahib Darais Bajan to give us the Hum Bandagi for the day. Ervat Sahib Darais Bajan, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Karishma. We'll start with Hum Bandagi of two Yatha videos and one Ashambho. In case if everybody wants to pray with me, please feel free to join. Yatha ahu vairyo atharatu ashaji thacha vangeo Nazda manango shodnanam Angeus mazda Shatrem ja aurai Aindre gubyo nadadvastare Yatha vairyo atharatu sashi raja Vangeus vasda maningo shodnana mangeus mastai Shatrem ja aurai Re gubyo dadad vastare. Hashem vohu vahistem asti. Ushtasti ushtamai. Yatashai vahistai Hashem.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Arvat Sahib. What a beautiful resonance you have created for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arvat Sahib Darayas Bajan is the son of our very noted and truly inspiring Arvat Sahib Parvez Bajan. He's a fully fledged priest from the Dadar Athornan Madrasa and was trained and ordained as an Avar and Martab from Navsari in 1985. He has performed several Nirangdin ceremonies and boy ceremonies across Atash Behrams in India. To further his religious training, he has completed the Masters in Avasta Pahlavi and other ancient Iranian languages from Mumbai University under the guidance of the late Dasturji Sahib K.M. Jamas Pasa, winning the K.F. Farooq Memorial Gold Medal. Arvat Sahib Bajan is also a commerce and law graduate and holds the Fellow of Membership of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, the Institute of Management Accountants of India, and the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and works in the corporate sector in Mumbai, in addition to helping his father in the day-to-day management of the Mevawala Dare Meher in Baikala, which is being managed by the Bajan family since the year 1851. We not just thank our Arvat Sahibs for their service in the priestly arena, but to take their time to also work in the secular world creates a great and strong bridge for the Zartushti community between prayers and action in the real world. Thank you, Arvat Sahib Bajan. Over
Thank
to
you very
you.
much, Karishma. Yeah, thank you. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear friends. Today, we'll explore the theme. Our observation is a reflection of our perception and our interoception through the lens of wisdom propounded by our dear Prophet Zarathustra in the Yasnaha 30.2, 43.5, and 43.15. So, I would like to begin my talk with a question, but not for me to answer, but for you to sit with. So when you look at the world around you, what are you actually seeing? The easy answer is objects, people, events. But the deeper answer, the answer that ancient wisdom traditions arrived at thousands of years ago, is that what we observe is never a raw, unfiltered reality. It is always a reflection of what we perceive through our senses and our mind, and equally a reflection of what we feel within, what the modern neuroscience now calls interoception. That is our body's awareness of its own internal states. As we delve deeper into this topic today, we'll explore this idea through the lens of world's oldest living wisdom traditions, the Gathas of the Zarthustras, the very words of our prophet himself, and to some extent also through the lens of Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads of the Hindu tradition. We'll also see how the Zoroastrian triad of Humata, Hukta, Vashta, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, is not merely a moral code, but a precise and practical template for seeing clearly and living with a purpose. So let's start with 30.2. This is one of the most profound verses in the entire Avesta canon. And it starts, Shrota Geush Aishvaishta Avenata Sucha Mananga Averina Vichithya Narem Narem Kakhya Tanuye Paramaze Ango Minus Dhyai Bodhantopeti. I will not go into the literal translation, but what it says in simpler terms is that if we are to notice the careful architecture of this verse, Zarathustra asks everyone to listen and ponder with their bright intellect. That is, those who have cultivated the capacity for genuine attention. The phrase good mind, Bahumana in Avastha, is not merely intellect. It is a purified, receptive mind, one that has stilled its prejudices, its fears, and its cravings. The implication is profound. The same external world, observed through a distorted mind, appears as darkness and confusion. Observed through Vahumana, the good mind, it reveals its inherent order and beauty. This is the first pillar of our theme. Our perception is the lens. The world we see is actually the world our mind is prepared to see. And Bhagavad Gita speaks identically in chapter 6, verse 5, where it says that self that is your friend, the self that is your friend is the awakened, enlightened self, the one that perceives with clarity. The self that is the enemy is the reactive ego, driven by conditioning. The same person, same situation, perceived through entirely different inner instruments, yields two entirely different realities and perspectives. The Chandogya Upanishad arrives at the same truth, which is through its great saying, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. The ultimate reality, Brahman, is not something outside to be observed. It is what you are in your deepest interior. To know the cosmos, you must first know yourself. Interoception, taken to its depth, becomes cosmic perception. Many of us have heard about the parable of muddy waters, where Gautam Buddha was able to help his disciples see that purifying the muddied water did not require any efforts, but just allowing the mud to settle down. So is the case with our minds. When it is cluttered or disturbed, let it be. Give it some time. It will unclutter by itself. Do not intervene. The agitation will cease of its own accord. Calming the mind does not require effort. It is obtained by non-involvement. Now let us turn to the next paragraph, Yasna 43.5. Spentem atva mazdam inge ura yatva angyo zato idareshem boring. Yat thou shotna mizdavan yacha ugda ake makai vangui mashim vangove tva hunara damoy shurvae se apeme. In our religion, each man is meted out justice as per his own thoughts, words, and deeds. Just like how we saw in Yasna 30.2, that each man is for himself. Narem narem ka khyayatanuye. So will he be rewarded or punished based on his choices. Unlike some other philosophies, Zoroastrian religion does not believe in vicarious liability. Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 verse 15 states the law of karma is self-rotating, independent of all other cosmic laws. God is not responsible either for anyone's virtuous deed or sinful actions. God's work in this regard is threefold. He provides the mind, the intellect, and the power to act. Once we have performed the actions and with the power supplied to us, he notes our actions and he gives us the result for our karmas. It further reaffirms the maxim, as we sow, so shall we reap. Good for good, bad for bad people. That brings us to the third verse. Yasna 43.15. Spentem atva mezdam ingeura, daksha tushra tushna mitis vaistar, noitna porus regveto kyachiksnusho, attoi vispengangarengashon adare. This verse reveals the integration, the inner wisdom, the best mind, a contented thought, tushna mitish vahista, stripped satisfaction, contentment, must be expressed through good speech and righteous action. The reward spans both the worlds, the inner world of consciousness and the outer world of lived experience. When our perception is aligned with Hashem, with the cosmic truth, our interoceptive clarity manifests as ethical, beautiful action in the world. Bhagavad Gita's chapter 2, verse 48 speaks of the same integration. Evenness of mind, samatvam, is precisely the state of calibrated interoception. Neither overreactive nor dumb, but clear, steady, and responsive. From this inner equilibrium, perception becomes accurate, and from accurate perception, wise action flows. Albert Einstein once gave away the secret to happiness, and it wasn't an equation. It was a scribbled note on a hotel stationery in Tokyo, where he was staying, to the bellboy, where he didn't have any money to give the tip. And the note read, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness. Tushna metish vahista, contented thought." So far we have explored the why and what. Why our observation is shaped by perception and interoception, and what the Gathas and the Gita reveal about the nature of that inner instrument. But ancient wisdom was never content with the philosophy alone. It was always practical. It always asked, so what do we do about it? And here the Zoroastrianism offers us one of the most elegant and actionable frameworks in the history of human thought. The three-word program that can be inscribed in any heart and carried into any situation. Umarta, Hukta, Varshta, the triad of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These three are not just a checklist. They are a cascade, a living sequence in which each stage purifies and enables the next. Let us walk through each one of them and see precisely how it accomplishes the purpose we have been discussing. That is, clearing the lens of perception, deepening interoceptive awareness, and enabling a more positive and purposeful life. So, Humatha, let's start with Humatha, good thoughts, which is purifying the inner lens, Vahumana. Observe thoughts without attachment. Ask, is this thought based on asha or truth, or is it based on conditioning and fear? Hukta, good words. Speak only what has been filtered through the clear perception. Words shape reality. Reactive speech distorts the world we then inhabit. And Vashta, good deeds. Act from the clarity that Humata and Hukta have established. Right action reinforces the perceptual loop, making future seeing even clearer. Neuroscience confirms this, that our neural networks are literally sculpted by the thoughts we repeat. What we think habitually, we eventually see inevitably. So we create our own realities. Practically, Humata invites us to begin each day with a deliberate act of inner alignment. Before we open our phones or rush into the demands of the world, to pause, to breathe, and to ask, what quality of mind am I bringing to this day? Am I carrying yesterday's grievances into today's perception? Am I seeing this person or situation freshly with Vahumana or the good mind, or through the clouded glass of habit and assumption? Which then brings us to Hukta, good words. Once the mind has been brought to clarity through Humata, the second principle activates Hukta, good words. And this is where the bridge between inner perception and outer reality becomes most visible. My friends, words are not merely descriptions of reality. They are actually constructions of reality. When we speak words of encouragement, truth, and compassion, when our speech is aligned with what we have genuinely perceived through a good mind, the nervous system relaxes, interoceptive signals become clearer, and we are able to see more of reality. In practical terms, if you ask me, Hukta asks us to practice the pause before the speech, the moment before we respond to a difficult email, to a frustrating colleague, to a frightened child. This is the secret space of Hukta. In that moment, we can ask, is what I'm about to say true? Is it kind? Does it serve the situation? Or does it only serve my own ego's need to be right? Which now brings us to the third principle, Vashta, good deeds. And this is where the entire teaching comes a full circle. And this part is one of the part which is most easily misunderstood. Good deeds in Zoroastrian sense are not merely acts of help or charity, though they certainly include those. At a deeper level, Vashta is the principle of alignment, the act of living in a way that is consistent with what we have perceived through good mind and expressed through good words. This is not a linear sequence. It is a virtuous cycle, each cycle lifting us to a higher level of clarity, compassion, and purpose. The Zoroastrian tradition understood that human consciousness is not a fixed thing, it is a process. And that process can be consciously directed towards Asher, towards the light, towards what Zarathustra calls the joy, which he shall see in the light who has good wisdom. So, friends, let us close this with a synthesis. Zarathustra in the Yasna called us to cultivate the good mind, the Vahumana, as the instrument through which the truth is perceived. He gave us Humata Hukta Vashta as a daily practice through which that instrument is kept clean and sharp. The Bhagavad Gita calls us to Samatvam, equanimity, as the ground from which clear seeing becomes possible. The Upanishads invited us into the deepest interior, Tattvamasi, so that we might know the cosmos by knowing ourselves. So the invitation is this. Let us begin tomorrow morning with Humata. Before we check our phones or rush into the noise of the world, let us all pause for a minute. Ask, what quality of man am I bringing to this day? Then, through the day, let's practice Hukta. Let our words be filtered through that good mind before they leave our lips and make an impact or positive impact on others. And at the end of the day, let's sit with Varshta. Where today did our actions align with our deepest values? Where did they fall short? And what would we do differently tomorrow? This is not a grand transformation. It is a daily, humble, patient practice. But it is the most powerful thing a human being can do. Because when we attend to the quality of our instrument, we do not just change how we see, we change what becomes possible to see. And in doing so, we participate in the great work that all wisdom traditions points towards, the alignment of our inner world with the external world of truth. What the Zoroastrians call Asha and the Hindus call Dharma and Satya. My dear friends, the world is waiting to be seen clearly, and that seeing begins with one good thought. Ashem Bahu, righteousness is good, Humata Hukta Vashta, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Thank you very much.
Superb, superb. Thank you, Ervat Sahib, Darayas Baja. I won't say any more. Thank you very, very much. Thank you not only to you, to your parents, but to the entire lineage that has made you bring us this great knowledge so simply and with so much feeling and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is time not just to say thank you to the great teachers like Ervat Sahib, Parvez Baja, and the other teachers of the Avasta language, but to also say that the Avasta and Pahlavi course from the University of Mumbai starts on the 13th of June. I am aware many of you know about the courses around the world, whether in London or Canada or Texas, that teach Avasta. But let me say to you, as now entering my third year of the Avasta Pahlavi course, that in this course from the University of Mumbai, we get the most devoted teachers, the greatest teaching, done in a simple and encouraging way. And I encourage you all to share the word with others, that this Avasta Pahlavi course, encouraged by the Government of India and put forth by teachers like Ervat Sahib Darbari, Dr. Hutokshi Zaroliwala, Ervat Sahib Parvez Baja and others, truly brings meaning, feeling, and inspiration to our lives. Please do join. Our next speaker today is Ervad Bima Dalal. Freya means the true affection, the love with which Auramazda and Zarathustra are linked. As Zarathustra Sahib says, speak to Auramazda as one friend to another, and Auramazda, please teach me. So that is the root of the word Freya. So Ervat Freya Vima Dalal is a Zoroastrian Navar who was ordained in 2019 in Mumbai in India. He was raised in the Zartushti family with priestly lineage on both sides. He was trained in the Navar prayers and formally initiated into priestly duties at a very young age. Ervat Sahib Bima Dalal is an active member of the Zoroastrian Association of Houston and remains involved in preserving and practicing our religious traditions. He's currently pursuing a master's degree in accounting in Texas in the United States. Why is it so important to give gratitude to our Ervat Sahibs, not just who have paternal lineage, but also to those who have maternal lineage also? One may not be able to realize the amount of sacrifice, time, and dedication the ladies of the family give to the priests in order for them to do their duty at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. The ladies are often up from 3:30 or 4, and their night may have only finished around 12 o'clock at night. So my mother, who is from an Athornan family, from both sides of her family, knows this, and I have seen this in action. So please let us give great gratitude to our Ervat Sahibs. Ervat Prima Dalal, over.
Thank you for that. And my mother is also in attendance here. So big thank you to her as well for all of the hours she spent helping me. And with that, let's begin. So I want to start off this with talking about a very simple theme, which is that our observation is a reflection of our perception and our interoception. At first, these words may sound complex, but the underlying idea is actually quite simple. Everyone experiences the world through two or even more lenses. The first lens is what is happening outside: people that we meet, words that we hear, events we experience, information that we get through our senses, food that we taste. The second lens is what happens inside: emotions, physical state, our thoughts, our memories, expectations, and state of mind. What's especially notable is that we often believe we see the world exactly as it is, when in reality we are seeing the world through these lenses at the same time. Thousands of years ago, our prophet Asho Zarathustra taught humanity the importance of Vaumana, the good mind. The good mind is more than simply intelligence or morals. It's the ability to think clearly, wisely, and truthfully. It is the capacity to rise above impulse and prejudice so we may choose the path of Asha, truth, order, and righteousness. This is why our faith places such importance on timeless principles of Humata, Hukta, Harvashta. The three principles are not separate from each other. They're connected in a continuous chain. Our thoughts influence our words influence our actions, and our actions shape both our character and the world around us. But before any of these things occur, there is something that comes first, which is observation. How we observe the world determines how we think about it. How we think about it influences everything that follows. Modern science has given us terms to explain this phenomenon, that is interoception. Interoception is oftentimes called the so called sixth sense. It is our awareness of what is happening inside our bodies. It includes signals like hunger, thirst, fatigue, pain, stress, happiness, calm, breathing, and even the heartbeat that we feel. These internal signals influence our emotions and our judgments far more than we realize. Imagine, for example, you receive a message from a friend. If you are well relaxed, rested, having a good day, you may read the message and assume everything's fine. But if you're stressed, exhausted, or upset, you may read the exact same message and assume that the sender is angry with you, as we don't have context around the way they say it, as it's simply words on a screen. The message hasn't changed, the words written hasn't changed, but the external observation is. What has changed is your internal state. The simple example here illustrates how perception and interoception work together to shape our understanding of reality. And in a way, Zarathustra taught us this principle far before modern psychology gave it the name of interoception. The Gathas encourage us not to react blindly, but to reflect carefully. That's where the concept of the good mind comes from. They encourage us to use our mind and our judgment. They encourage us to seek truth rather than simply accepting appearances. A person guided by Vahumana does not immediately rush to conclusions. Rather, they pause, they observe, they reflect, and most of all, they seek understanding prior to judgment, which is an important lesson in today's world. We live in an age where information travels instantaneously. News spreads in seconds, opinions, they spread even faster. Social media, for example, encourages people to react immediately rather than think carefully. It's how the algorithms are built. As a result, many misunderstandings occur before people assume intention without first seeking understanding. One of the most valuable skills we can develop is the ability to observe without judgment. When someone says something that upsets us, we ask ourselves, do we understand what they meant? Could there be an alternative explanation? Am I reacting to facts or am I reacting to assumptions? This practice of non judgmental observation is deeply consistent with the teachings of the good mind. When we separate our observations from assumption, we become far more compassionate. When we become more compassionate, we communicate more effectively. When we communicate more effectively, we build stronger relations. Observation then becomes more than simply seeing, it becomes a conversation. Not only a conversation with ourselves, but a conversation with others. It allows us to examine biases, fears, and emotions. It allows us to ask whether our perceptions are aligned with truth. And it allows us to make choices that reflect wisdom rather than impulse. As a university student and someone preparing for a professional career, I see this lesson repeatedly, as have many of you that are in the professional world. Many conflicts arise because people interpret the same situation differently. One may see criticism, another sees feedback. One sees a problem, another sees opportunity. One sees disagreement, another sees a chance to learn. This very principle is what I believe has made Zoroastrians historically so successful in every society we have inserted ourselves in every society we have found ourselves existing in. The event itself that happened between two people may be identical. What differs is the lens that one observes it through. This is why self awareness is so important. We must understand our internal state when we gain greater control over our reactions. Instead of our allowing emotions to control us, we learn to respond thoughtfully. Instead of assumptions, we inquire. Instead of judgment, we understand. Instead of reacting, we choose. And that choice is where the power of Humata, Hukta, or Vashta truly comes alive. Good thoughts help us interpret wisely, good words help us communicate respectfully, and good deeds help transform us into understanding and into action. And each principle builds on the last. This leads us to another powerful idea contained internally within the theme I mentioned earlier, that observation and collaboration together create transformation. When people listen to one another with openness and curiosity, rather than simply thinking about what they'll say in response, remarkable things become possible. Families get stronger, communities become more united, and organizations become more effective, and humanity in general progresses much faster. Transformation begins when we are willing to see not only through our own eyes, but also through the perspective of others. Ultimately, I believe the message of Zarathustra is one of conscious choice. You don't always control the events that happen around us. We control how we perceive them. We can cultivate awareness of both external world and internal state. We can train ourselves to observe more clearly, think wiser, or act more purposefully. In doing so, we transform knowledge into wisdom because there is a difference. Knowledge tells us what is happening. Wisdom understands what it means. Knowledge gathers information, and wisdom puts that into action. And when wisdom is guided by the good mind, it becomes a force for positive change in the world. May we all strive to strengthen our awareness, deepen our understanding, and live according to these principles. May our observations be guided by truth, our perceptions by wisdom, and our actions by goodness. And most of all, we must weave our knowledge into wisdom. So we may optimize our lives, serve humanity, and create a better world for our future generations. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So well said. Absolutely, Arvind Saib Madalal. Thank you. You'll do very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Auntie, Mrs. Vima Dalal, ma'am, thank you very much. We are very grateful to you and Arvind Saib and your whole family. Thank you. As we reflect upon what our priests have just told us, before we move on into the second section, let us invite Arvind Saib Darayas to ask us to reflect on the relationship as one friend to another, this concept of Freya, with the fire. Arvind Saib Bajan, please would you share with us that the meaning of the Vispanam Paracharantam verse of the Atash prayers?
Vispanam Paracharantam Atas Aditya. And here, Dada Urmas does not refer himself to a very high-handed person. So he treats human beings as equal. And he asks, what does a standing friend has got for a sitting friend? the word Atas Jasta Adidya, and he looks at the hands of the devotee. So whether he has got sukhar, or whether he has got loban, whether he has got prayers. So just like how we go for a dinner at somebody's house and the guests expect that we bring something. So similarly, the Atash also expects what we get. But the most important part which we discuss is that he refers to us in the same as our friend. So God is our friend, and there is no distinction in some of the, if we delve deeper, God is the self, and some of the religions propound that God is within ourselves. So it all boils down to the same message, that the good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, the Vahumana, the good mind, is the greatest, I would say, the asset and the most we have to work on.
Thank you, Darai Sahib. This is the verse that refers to the sitting friend, not just as sitting, but the Arma Shaide, the embodiment of Armaite. So thank you very much, Arvat Sahib Bhajan. Beautiful reflection. We'll now move on to our next speaker. There we go. Shiva Ashtari. Shiva Ashtari is a master's student and graduate research assistant in industrial and systems engineering at the University of Oklahoma. She was born and raised in Iran and has been living in the United States since 2023. While in Iran, Shiva was an active member of the Zoroastrian Student Association and served as a board member for 2 years. Since coming to the United States, she has continued serving the Zoroastrian community through the Iranian Zoroastrian Youth Network, the IZYN, helping strengthen connections between Zoroastrians in Iran and around the world. She's also passionate about sports, art, music, and plays volleyball, performs the daf, a traditional Iranian instrument, and enjoys painting and spending time in Iran. It is incredibly important at this point to state that Shiva's work has been facilitated by Professor Farokh Mistry and his dear wife, Professor Janet Allen. And with the World Zartushti Chamber of Commerce, Professor Farokh Mistry, having established the IZYN, which Shiva and her husband have taken on the role of bridging continents, bridging the knowledge from Iran into the engineering tradition, and not just engineering, it's systems engineering, which means making smart cities, making life better, making the world a better place, is what the IZYN does. And Shiva represents the essence of the IZYN, the WZCC IZYN. Over to you, Shiva.
Thank you so much, dear Karishma. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. Well, hi everyone, and thank you for inviting me to speak and share my experience with you on this interesting topic. Our observation is a reflection of our perception and our interoception. I would like to begin my by reading from the Gata Yasna 30.2, where Ashu Zartush tells us, "Hear the truth with your ears, test it with your reason, and choose your path with complete freedom." To me, this is the essence of Zoroastrianism and humanity. We have the freedom and authority to think, speak, and act. But what is most important is that we take responsibility, learn, and grow. I will read Yasna 30.2 from the photo on the right, which is written in the Indabura script. Shnautra Hure Mazda Srauta Geushawish Vahishta Avaena Ta چامننگها آورنا ویچی تهیا نرم خخیای تنویه پرامز یانگها احماینه سازدیای باودن تو پیتی ای دنبال. In the rest of my talk, I will share one experience from my life. Then I will show you several photos. For each photo, I will give you 10 seconds to reflect on it, and then I will share my own takeaway. In the final part of my talk, I will share what I have learned from my life during these 30 years, from Iran to America, and my opinion on today's topic. Am I stupid? This is a question I've been asking myself since I was 8 years old. When I first learned addition and subtraction. At that time, I could do addition, but I struggled with subtraction. One day, my teacher didn't allow me to leave the classroom with my classmates. She told me, "You are stupid. You cannot do subtraction. You must stay in class and practice." She even made my mother worried that I couldn't learn subtraction. My mother did not believe that, but I believed it. Although I earned my bachelor's degree in industrial engineering, throughout all those years, I was always trying to prove to myself and others that I was not stupid, that this was not the truth about me. Even now, as I'm doing my master's in industrial and systems engineering, I still struggle.
I think we may have a connection issue. Shiva, are you there?
Yes, could you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Many times I've asked myself why I could not understand subtraction. Do you know why? Because when I was a child and my teacher asked, "Do you have 7 apples?" and I take 2 of them from you. How many apples do you have now? It was easy to say 5. But at that age, I was struggling with the concept of subtraction. I was thinking, why does someone want to take my apples? Why should I give them away? I was okay with addition and gaining more apples, but I was not okay with losing them. Nobody understood me. My teacher thought I was stupid, and I believed her. That belief had a painful effect on my life. There are many other stories like these that shaped my thoughts and behavior, and many of them are rooted in my childhood. Here I want to share a story about someone we all know, Thomas Edison. One day Thomas Edison came home from school with a letter from his mother. The school had written, "Your son is stupid and will not learn anything." But his mother didn't tell him that. Instead, she said, "You are a genius and the school just can't understand you." That single word was the reason he later invented the light that brightens our lives today. In this part, I have 6 photos for you. I will give you 10 seconds to reflect on each of them. Let us start with this one. What do you see here?
Do you want people to write in the chat? Do you want them to unmute and tell you? Shiva, you'll need to give them some instruction.
I I just need you to reflect on that and keep your answer for yourself. Yeah. Okay. I see two sides here.
We lost a little bit of what you said earlier. So maybe if you could repeat it, Shiva, please.
Okay, sorry. I think my internet connection is unstable.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay. Here we have two sides. Look at it from the left side and the right side. From right side we can see M, and from left side we can see W. What does it mean to you? To me, it means that people are not right or wrong. They just have a different view of things. Next photo. How many sticks do you see? Your 10 seconds start now. Again, we have two perspectives. From the right side, it looks 5, and then from the left side, it looks 7. This is similar to the previous photo, but my takeaway is different. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. And I connect this idea to a sentence from Marcus Aurelius. Next one. Is a turtle a slow animal or a fast one? If a turtle compares itself to an eagle, then yes, it seems slow. But if a snail looks at the turtle seems fast. That means to me progress is relative. What seems slow to one may seem fast to another. The important thing is to keep moving forward at your own pace without judging yourself by comparison with others. Next photo. What does it mean to you? It says just do nothing. I promise that nobody could interpret it correctly because you only have the view from one angle. The whole sentence is actually just do it. Nothing is impossible. Perspective matters. Before judging, try to see the whole picture. What seems negative from one angle may be meaningful from another. Next one. Which shoes are more comfortable? Alright. We have an idiom in Farsi that says something similar to before you judge a person, walk a mile in their shoes. These shoes may seem comfortable to me, but they may not be comfortable for another person. Even if I wear them, it's still not completely fair because my feet are different from theirs. So I can never fully understand exactly how another person fits. And the last photo is this. When you are on a bus, do you choose to look at the right side or the left side? So much of our happiness depends on how we choose to look at the world. The more I know myself and learn from life, the more authority I gain over my thoughts. I believe the most important thing in the world that I can control is my mind and my thoughts. And I think that's everything. It depends on me which perspective I choose when I look at the events in my life and what I choose to fill my mind with. What shaped me was my past experiences, but what helps me grow is self-awareness. Every moment I consciously train my mind to understand different perspectives, avoid judging myself and others, trust the world, and believe that everything can serve my growth. It's difficult, but I have this awareness. Just as I go to the gym and lift weights so to shape my body, I also need to spend time on myself to shape my thoughts and support my personal growth. And over the past year, because of the difficult situation in Iran, this exercise has been harder for me than ever before. Anger mania and Sapanta mania both exist, but I can choose which one I expand within myself. I can choose to see the prison bars, or I can choose to see the beautiful scenery beyond them. And through that choice, I can bring a positive effect to people around me. I truly appreciate your attention and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Shiva. Could you show us the last slide, the previous slide, please, before you end?
Sure.
Because I think that summarizes the beautiful message you have given us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Here
you.
you go.
Thank you very, very much indeed.
Of course.
And I hope many, many people will listen to the recording. These recordings are made and shared in the interest of sharing knowledge and helping other people reflect upon this great wisdom that is there in the Zarathushti Daina. Let us move on to our final speaker. Indeed, the final speakers are actually all the participants here in the session today, because you will all be invited to give your questions to the specific speakers or share a question as Professor Farooq did last week, where all four speakers can share their thoughts. Either way. After everyone's finished their questions, the speakers have the option of giving their questions to each other and to us. Then there will be an open forum where you can share your thoughts, your inspiration from your community, any events that are happening, etc. Anything you've learned, etc. Our next speaker today is a lady who truly is a leader. So in the Zoroastrian faith, being a lady or a gentleman, gender makes no particular difference because people complement each other. So a leader is a leader, a teacher is a teacher, the light is the light. So Dilnaz is a woman of color, as she says, of Indian origin and of the ancient Zoroastrian faith. Having lived and worked across the world, including in India, Singapore, UK, Dubai, the Middle East, and Australia. Yes, in Australia, it's past 1 o'clock at night now. She knows firsthand about diversity and inclusion. Dilnaz Bilamoria volunteers across health, education, and engagement, working tirelessly with women, youth, seniors across multicultural, multi-faith, multilingual, and multi-generational communities, understanding their needs, identifying where the gaps are, and finding solutions with access to information and services. She sits on the boards and steering committees across Melbourne, Victoria, and nationally across Australia and Oceania. Dilba firmly believes her role to be a grassroots community connector, bringing together state and federal government, local councils, corporate and marginalized vulnerable people. She likes to flip hard to reach to instead say hardly reached, thereby putting the onus on people who hold power to make efforts to engage with all voices. Dilnaz Bilamoria has been recognised for her tireless volunteering by being appointed to the Victorian Multicultural Honour Roll 2024, the Victorian Seniors Premiers Award for Promoting Multiculturalism 2025, as well as recently being awarded the Aspire to Inspire A21 Award at the Eastern Health Service, the largest catchment in the Victoria State. When I saw your photograph in the newspaper, I didn't know whether we'd be able to reach you. But Mr. Meher Amal Saad, my dear mentor and facilitator of the Bahumata program, makes dreams reality. And today's all four speakers today are really a dream to listen to. And we thank you for ending this inspirational session with your talk and address to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karishma. And to everyone here, I know it's evening time in some parts of the world. It's 1 a.m. in Australia, but I'm happy because we've been sitting here for an hour. If everybody wants to shake their hands a little and stretch their necks and just move their shoulders so that, everyone's engaged. So my name's Dilnaz Bilamoria, born in Mumbai, India, lived and worked in Dubai in the Middle East for 10 years. And then, of course, came to Australia 25 years ago. This is our 26th year with 2 small kids and my husband. And I really enjoyed what Edward Darius said, Edward Freyan said, and Shiva, I loved your visual experiences. It was really good. But I thought I'd come to this webinar with a different perspective of how I actually take good words, good thoughts, and good deeds into my life. And I think it's important because you can read the gathas and you can sit with your prayer book, but if you don't imbibe what you're reading and learning as a daily practice into your life, then I don't think one is a good Zartushti. So I think it's really important that we walk the talk, as we would say in the Western world, by actually showing how we can actually, literally and actually show that we are following the good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. So for me, coming from a middle-class Zoroastrian family in India, in Mumbai, even then we realized that we were quite fortunate as compared to many others who may not have the same facilities and the rights and the empowerment that we had. So early on, my father and mother got me into volunteering. And I think this concept of volunteering is truly good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And that's what I wanted to focus on today with all the lovely people on this webinar. So there is an important concept which is there in our gathas, which is there in Buddhism, which is there in the Hindu faith, which is there in the Sikh faith, which is very much there in Christianity. And that's the concept of service. So when we do service or seva, as we would call it in India and in many parts of the world, we are following a practice. So for me, service and practice walks together on the path of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And I believe that all of us, however busy we are in our lives, we came to Australia with 2 young kids. My husband and I didn't have a job. We had to look for work. I had my late mother-in-law live with us for 10 years before she passed. But that doesn't mean that we can't carve out time for giving back to the community. And it can be as simple as helping neighbors on the street who may not be able to do things for themselves, help in your children's school, help at university, as some of our young speakers have said, volunteering. It could be volunteering in the wider community. So when I came to Australia, I had lived in India, I had lived in the Middle East, I knew different cultures. And when I came to Australia, I thought, wow, this is a Western country. I don't think they really need any help. But I was quite wrong, because like any other country in the world, Australia needs help. Australian people need help. So I thought to myself, what could I do to help? And I thought of education because I had two young kids. When I looked at education, I realized that there are so many marginalized and vulnerable communities, and that is there all over the world, who actually didn't have access to education. People who came as refugees, people who came as asylum seekers, people who came as migrants from a country which was in strife and war. They had literally come with the shirt on their back. So I started some classes to help, especially with English, maths, and science. And I roped in our kids along the way too. So, our daughter was in grade 8, she was helping grade 5, our son was in grade, 6, helping grade 2, and I was helping the senior classes in the library. And that's where I started meeting the mothers of these children. And I realized that there was a big gap in women's health. Unfortunately, even though we're a westernized country in Australia, we do not have the kind of health structures some years ago that we would have liked. And I realized that women's health really fell through the gap. And it was not just women from socioeconomic deprived backgrounds, it was a lot of women who didn't understand the access to health. And I took it upon myself to think, as someone who believes in good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and someone who believes in service and the practice of service, what can I do to help these women? So there was this lone voice, woman of color, person of a different faith, had a different name, dark colored hair. And somebody said, oh, if you change your name, Dilnaz, to maybe Desiree or Daisy, and maybe go a little more blonde, it might help. And I said, no, that doesn't fit well within my concepts of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. So keeping my name as it is, keeping my hair color as it is, and being the straight talker I am, I started approaching government organizations and health services to see what could we do. And somebody asked me, why are you doing this? And I started explaining that I'm a Zoroastrian. And in the Zoroastrian faith, the three tenets, as both our Erward said, of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, in this life on earth is what guides me. And they said, well, that's a pretty high fundamental explanation. We can't say no. So my message today, because we've heard from the faith groups and we've heard from Shiva with perceptions and interoception, is that God gave us a brain and a heart. And we need the two to work together to be good Zoroastrians, but to also be good human beings. And if we look at what we are about to do in our life, as Edward said, before we look at our phones or before we put on our makeup or before we rush off to the car or to catch a bus, I believe every morning and throughout the day, I question myself before I say a word. I question myself before I do something. And most importantly, I question myself in my mind as to the thoughts that I have on whatever I'm about to do. Once you say the word, it's very hard to get it back. And once you say a nasty word or something which should not have been said, especially in this day and time of social media and capturing everything, you will certainly not be able to erase the slate. So I think it's very important. And when we talk to our young people in our community and outside, I always say that before you say or do something which is major, think to yourself, is that a good thought? Am I about to say something which will help someone as a good word? And am I going to be doing a deed which will be of use to someone? And I think as a Zoroastrian, we have, ours is a small faith group anywhere in the world. But I do believe we punch above our pay grade. in terms of being a very strong, well-knit community. And I've had the good fortune of traveling around the world and meeting Zoroastrians in unexpected places. But every time I speak to the person, I think to myself that I am so fortunate to be part of the Zoroastrian faith. Because whatever be the conversation, it always comes back to good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. So I'm very proud that I take these three concepts with me into my world, whether it's with my neighbors, whether it's with my friends. We have been very fortunate to start interfaith networks. So I founded and continued over 25 years the White Horse Interfaith Network. And people say that through COVID, through wars, through strife, how have you kept the interfaith network going? I said, because it's not just me, it's us from all our different faiths who are speaking words that will help, who are thinking thoughts that will benefit, and who are doing deeds that will be of great help to the wider community. So I think it's not hard. I must end on this humorous note. When we came to this country 26 years ago, our son was only 5 years old and he went to school, straight away. And I came to school in the afternoon to pick him up. And all the parents, in those days, they were all Australian, people, patting me on the shoulder and saying, wow, your son spoke so well, the three tenets of your faith. And I'm so very proud as a mother, bursting with pride and thinking, wow, my 5-6-year-old son has stood in front of the whole school and spoken about the faiths. And Australia, as you know, is a country where, you love to enjoy yourself, you're larrikin, you have a good time. So one of the parents, I said, may I ask, what did my son say? And she says, he stood there on the stage, he was reflecting. Don't forget, he's only 5.5. He was reflecting. And then he said, there are three faiths and three tenets in the Zoroastrian faith: eat, drink, and be merry. And I went, what did he say? Eat, drink, and be merry. Where did that come from? But when we reflected on that with a 5.5-year-old that evening, we realized that Zoroastrians are actually known for being a community that is happy, that breaks bread with whoever comes to your house, be it of any faith or community or gender, and truly invites them to have a cup of tea or coffee or faluda or sarbat with them. So I reflect over 26 years that good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, and of course, what everyone said is true. But when my son said, eat, drink, and be merry, he was showing that we are a warm and inclusive community that welcomes everyone into their homes and their hearts. Thank you.
But he was right in one way, isn't it? In so many ways. Ushta amma, ya mai, ushtaka mai chit. Happiness comes through bringing happiness to others. And that's what merry means, isn't it? And indeed, Ushta comes from following Asha, as Ervat Sahib Bajan has correctly guided and linked the two concepts together. And Asha being the truth and righteousness, but also the great order in the universe. So to resonate with that great order. Ervad Darais Bajan, thank you very much. Ervad Vimadalal, gratitude to you. Shiva, thank you. And Dilnaz, thank you so much. Wow. We now come to the section where we look at Dilnaz's little image and reflect as we are people in the diaspora. What can we do? Maybe we will not win so many awards as Dilnaz has won. But what can we do in the diaspora? Migrated from, and I have to say, the Zoroastrians did not just migrate from Iran. At one time, the Persian Empire was all the way from Italy on one side, the edge of Italy, at the end of the Mediterranean Sea, all the way to the other end of the China Sea. The whole continent was Zoroastrian, from where people have migrated to all corners of the world. So Haftakeshwar Zameen, as Zarathustra Sahib has indicated, is not just the 7 strata above the earth, but some people interpret it as the 7 continents. So what can we do to spread these wonderful thoughts wherever we are? One way to do so is to participate in the 17th Zoroastrian Games, scheduled for July 1st to the 4th in UC Davis, California. The registration is open, so please join in. Spread the word if you can't join in so that other people can join in. Because sportsman spirit is not just on the field, but that is the true message that Zarathustra Sahib says. Be friends with people. Don't compete with others, compete to make yourself better. These are all messages that Zarathustra Sahib gave that we can apply through sport or by joining in, as Mummy rightly says, into the Singapore World Congress, which is in December. And many of the people who are the core Bahumata team are also instrumental in the World Congress, along with many, many other Zartushtis around the world. Giving them all great gratitude for the work they do to make the world a better place. Let's now open the floor for questions. Thank you, Baba Meher, for the splendid speakers you've brought us, as you do every month for the last 5.5 years. Crossing over 250 speakers.
Tirelessly.
Indeed. I'm going to take a screenshot. Could everyone smile, please? Or scowl, whichever you prefer. Wonderful. Speakers, questions to speakers. Okay. The last line, until somebody else comes up with a question, the last line of Yasna 30.2, this concept of before each great decision. Arbat Sahib Darais, first to you. Para maze yongo, before each great event. Ends with the line of Baudhanto Paiti. So as each of us puts Sukhar Loban on the fire, this concept of spreading fragrance is actually, according to some interpretations, tied to the Baudha, the intellect. That capacity which some priests say connects us like computers are connected today to the cloud. Our Baudha can be connected. And we're supposed to share this fragrance with others by offering it first to the fire. So I'm going to ask Ervat Sai Baja, how do we reflect before each great decision? At that moment when the decision comes, it's very difficult. So how do we prepare to do what you say for that event sometime in the future?
So I would say first is again tying back to the triad of Mata, Hukta, and Vashta. First is, of course, cleaning the lens through which we see clearly. The most important, as I say, if I were to summarize one sentence for Hukta, it is this pause before we speak. And the pause is the most important because words are like arrows. Once they are shot, I mean, they are out of control. I mean, you cannot take those words again. And so not overreaction, but through observance, through patience, through stillness, I would say, the pause before we take. So of course, once our lens is clear through Mata, the next is what we speak or we act. So just the pause. What am I going to say is right or kind or compassionate? Or what am I going to do? Is it right or it fits with my purpose? And of course, that sharpening of intellect, bodhang, and the ritual of frankincense, myrrh. I mean, it was the three great gifts which the great priests also gave to Jesus Christ, frankincense, myrrh, and gold. And if we see Catholic Christianity, if we see Hinduism, there is always the great importance assigned to the spread of the fragrance, the frankincense, and also which kind of mingles with our apre agyarima jaiye. And the moment we step into the pressings of agyari atash biram, because of the sweet smell of sukhar and loban, the atmosphere is completely different. And that itself is the first step towards cleansing our lens and cleansing our body. It's like the ritual bath for our mind and our spirit, the fragrance, I would say. And Of course, the bodhang is the most important. So entire gathas or the yasna or our religion is just begins with a simple one good thought is what it starts with. And we say that the heaven and hell is here. Of course, it may be there upstairs as well, but it resides within us as well, most importantly. So these are the states of mind.
Talk about the properties. Very true. And frankincense has so many health benefits also now that neuroscience is relating to the sense of clearing the mind in terms of a scientific perspective, clearing the immune system, making ourselves clean and pure, even at a cellular level. And somehow this has been known for thousands of years by the Zoroastrian priests. Darai Sahib has said something very, very important just now. I'm not sure how many people actually heard. He says, making a heaven or hell is also here now. What happens afterwards? So this concept of heaven is called Garotman in the Zoroastrian texts. And one meaning of the root word gar is light, enlightenment, awakening. And today I think what our speakers have done for us is truly help us create Garotman, the house of song it's called, the house of positive vibrations, the house of happiness. But as Darai Sahib said, by following the principles of the good thought, we can create that awakening, that gar, now. The Atashnyas has a beautiful phrase that says, I pray for a child that has Jaga Urum. That is the reduplicated word gar, a child that is awakened. And doesn't have to be one's own child. It could be the person around you whom you nurture when they are in need. Of course, it can be one's own child also. Now, let us take the question from Meher. Meherji, please go ahead, unmute yourself. And if you can, turn on your camera.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Meherwan Irani from Los Angeles. And I was extremely impressed by the comments that all our four speakers made. And is it okay to have an observation, make an observation?
Yes, yes.
Or do I have to ask questions? Okay.
You can, if it's an observation that you would like to make immediately, then please share your burning thought with us. If it can wait for the next section after questions, that's your choice.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, Erwad Freyan spoke about developing the lens and how you look at life with a different perspective. I'm still developing my lens. And what I've realized is that through all these years, I'm in my mid-70s. So what I've realized is that the lens begins to develop the moment the child is born. And who develops that lens? It is the parents. The child has the perspective of realizing what's going on around in their environment. So if the parents are loving and thoughtful and behave in a righteous manner, that is how the lens will develop. But if there is strife and malpractice, that is the other lens that will develop. And hopefully when the child grows up, like me, the child will develop their own lens. But the majority of the impressions that are created for the lens to develop are by the parents. So the parents have the greatest responsibility in developing the child. And the other observation I want to make is with Miss Shiva, is about being called stupid. પારસીમાં આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં બોલી જાય તું તો જંગલી છે તુને કે માલુમ નથી. Shiva.
Let me just translate that for Shiva. Would you like to translate that for Shiva?
Yes. Toya khari hasti. So that is that you are a donkey, So what I used to be an instructor for one of the colleges over here. teaching U.S. Coast Guard engineering classes. And the first thing that I would ask in my class is, what is the stupidest question that you've asked or heard being asked? And I tell you, I've got a lot of doozies, to share with you, but I can't over this on this forum. But my reply is, there is no such thing as a stupid question, because the stupidest question is the question that you do not ask. You will remain stupid for your life for not asking that question. And that again, that mentality of stupidity is developed when the child is growing up. So again, the parents have the utmost responsibility in the growth of the child, in making the child be extremely confident in their abilities, and to project those abilities for good, like we have righteousness. So that was my observation, getting all these comments from the learned Erwads and the forum members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meher, because what you have done is reflected upon the fact that thousands and thousands of years ago, Asho Zarathustra in his Gathas has actually stated this quite clearly. Yasna 51 verse 5. Vispata peresas ashachi tacha gaim vidat. Ask all questions in the light of Asha for the progress of all. Gayam is the whole world, the whole community. So beautifully you've said that. Thank you. The next question is from Professor Seferi. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you to all the participants and all the speakers. I left a question in the chat for Shiva. Well, thank you for your very entertaining, interesting, and a lot of good points I took from your presentation. And you have come a long way. We are proud of you since you were a student back home. You mentioned the perception, and two people see the same thing two different ways, one green, one black. So my question in the chat was, how do they ever agree? If they see different things, how are we going to make a community? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Saberi. I would say I think we don't need to prove our opinions or thoughts to others. We only need to understand each other without bias and respect everyone's thoughts. I think that's enough. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shiva. I have a question for Dilnaz. I'd request anybody else who has a question for Dilnaz to please ask it now before my question so that Dilnaz can move on. It's 2:30 at night in Australia.
Well, again, I put a question for Dilnaz in the chat.
Go ahead.
In her bio, you said she was in the UK, and I was curious, what did she do in the UK? We have Lord Karen Bellimoria here, probably related.
Thank you, Professor. No, I'm not related to Lord Bellimoria, nor to his beer brewery, unfortunately. But I have been very fortunate. I've worked with the Tata Group in India with something called TAS, Tata Administrative Service, which was modeled on the IAS, which is the Indian Administrative Service. So I've had the good fortune to be posted to different parts of the world, which is why I've been in UK, in Europe, in the Middle East, in the Far East, etc. But coming to your question, Dr. Karishma, and I know that you are a neuroscientist yourself and, stem cell work and other things, I think we always need to understand that our bodies, with the perception and the interoception, I don't want to go into it in detail because I think our other speakers have explained. And coming to Professor Seferi's point too, we sometimes wage a war within ourselves, between the choices that we are trying to make. And sometimes the choices may not be good for us. Sometimes we have to understand that certain things are beyond our control, whatever it may be. And we have to be able to understand that with our prayers, with our faith, evaluating our words, thoughts, and deeds, how do we make the best choice for ourselves? And then that brings it to Shiva's comment that we don't have to always look for peer approval. We don't have to bang the frying pan and say, hey, I'm taking this decision. Do you think it's all right? And ask. So long as we know that in our heart, under the circumstances, and the situation, that we are taking a path which is going to take us forward in a good way, then I think we can be honest to our conscience and sleep well at night. And I think that's part of what we practice. I practice. I can't say we. I love the M and the W. I often go into community and say, don't talk about me. So I have the ME and then I flip it and I say, let's talk about the we. Let's talk about the com. I often tell community, Australians and others, that the word community actually comes from com, which in Persian and Sanskrit means a group of people. So if we can do something that positively impacts a group of people through service, then I think we are on the right path of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. May I leave, Dr. Karishma and Meher?
Absolutely. We're now calling upon Ervat Freyan to give us a Hambandagi, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do two Yata Varios, one Ashimbo. Yatao Vario, Ataratush, Ashachir Hacha, Vangeosh Tazamanango, Shatranam, Angiush Mazda, Shatrem Cha Uraim Dregopyo Vastarem, Yatao Vario, Ataratush, Ashachir Hacha, Vangeosh Tazamanango, Shatranam, Angiush Mazda, Shatrem Cha Urai, Aim Dregopyo Vastarem, Hashem vohu vaistem asti, usta asti, ustamai yadashai vaistai Hashem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now stop the recording. If anybody would like to stay on to share any thoughts, ask any questions, you may do so. Yazdi, with your permission, I will stop the recording. Baba Meher, I hope that's all right.